There's a specific kind of failure that's uniquely frustrating. Not the clean failure, the error message that appears immediately, clearly, telling you exactly what went wrong. Those are almost pleasant in their honesty. You know what happened, you know what to do. This is the other kind. You make a request. The loading indicator appears. Seconds pass, more seconds. The indicator keeps spinning. Nothing arrives, nothing errors. The system is in a state that looks like it's working and feels like it isn't. At some point, something finally happens. A timeout message appears. Connection timed out. Request failed. The system gave up waiting. That moment of giving up, the timeout, is not an afterthought or an edge case in network design. It is one of the most fundamental and carefully considered mechanisms in networked systems, because the silence that precedes it is genuinely ambiguous in a way that has deep consequences, and deciding how long to wait before giving up is harder than it appears. Start with what's actually happening when data doesn't arrive. You send a request, an HTTP request to load a page, a TCP segment containing data, a UDP packet carrying a query. It enters the network. From your device's perspective, it disappears. The packet might be traveling normally and simply hasn't arrived yet. It might be queued at a congested router. It might have been dropped and no longer exists anywhere. The server might be processing your request and is about to respond. The network path might be broken. Each of these scenarios looks identical from the sender's side. You sent something and nothing has come back yet. This is the fundamental problem of failure detection in distributed systems, and it has a formal name: the impossibility of distinguishing a slow response from no response. Given only the evidence of silence, a sender cannot determine whether the receiver is slow, the network is congested, the packet was lost, or the destination is completely unreachable. All of these produce the same observable state from the sender's perspective: waiting, with nothing arriving. This isn't a solvable problem in any clean sense. It's an inherent property of asynchronous communication across an unreliable network. There is no mechanism that can definitively answer the question, "Did my packet arrive?" without receiving a response, and if the response isn't arriving, you're back to the same ambiguity. The practical solution to this impossibility is the timeout, a decision to treat silence, lasting longer than some defined duration, as equivalent to failure. A timeout says, "I don't know what happened, but I've been waiting long enough that I'm going to act as if the request failed. I'll stop waiting. I'll free up whatever resources I was holding. I'll report an error, retry, or take whatever recovery action is appropriate." This is not a perfect solution. It's a pragmatic one. Without timeouts, the alternative is worse: waiting forever. A system with no timeouts, in the presence of network failures, hangs indefinitely, holding connections open, consuming memory, blocking threads or processes that could be doing other work. In production systems, a missing timeout on a critical network call is one of the most common causes of cascading failures. Timeouts are the mechanism that converts infinite waiting into bounded failure. They make failure fast, which makes systems more resilient. But setting timeout values correctly is genuinely difficult, and the consequences of getting it wrong in either direction are serious. Set a timeout too short, and you give up on requests that would have succeeded. Under normal network conditions, a request to a server on the other side of the world might legitimately take 200 milliseconds. A timeout of 100 milliseconds would consistently fail those requests, even when everything is working correctly. Your system appears broken even when the network is healthy. Set a timeout too long, and failure detection is slow. If a server goes down, and your timeout is 30 seconds, every request to that server waits 30 seconds before failing. If your application makes several such requests per user interaction, users experience hangs of minutes before seeing any error. During that time, your system is holding threads, connections, and memory, all blocked, waiting for timeouts that will eventually fire. The right timeout depends on what you're timing. Network timeouts, how long to wait for a TCP connection to be established, are typically short, because connection setup either happens quickly or indicates a serious problem. Read timeouts, how long to wait for data after a connection is established, need to account for legitimate server processing time, which can vary enormously depending on what the server is doing. A request that triggers a complex database query might legitimately take several seconds. A timeout shorter than the P99 latency of that query will produce spurious failures. Good timeout design requires knowing the latency profile of what you're waiting for, not just the average, but the distribution. A service that's usually fast but occasionally slow needs a timeout that accommodates the slow tail, or it will generate false failures during normal operation. When a timeout fires and a request is declared failed, the next decision is whether to retry. And retrying introduces its own complications. If you retry a request that actually succeeded, where the original request arrived, was processed, but the response was lost or delayed beyond your timeout, you might process the operation twice. A payment, retried after a timeout, might charge a customer twice. This is why the relationship between timeouts and retries requires careful design. The standard pattern is to make operations idempotent, designed so that processing the same request twice produces the same result as processing it once, and then retry freely. If the operation is idempotent, the risk of double processing is eliminated and retrying on timeout is safe. But not all operations are easily made idempotent. And in time-sensitive contexts, where the retry itself might also time out, where the underlying problem hasn't been resolved, a retry strategy without careful backoff can make things worse. A system that immediately retries every timed-out request, as fast as possible, might flood an already struggling server with a storm of retries, preventing it from recovering. This is one of the contributing patterns in cascading failures, the retry storm that turns a partial degradation into a complete outage. The standard defense is exponential backoff, waiting progressively longer between retries. First retry after 1 second, second after 2, third after 4. The delay doubles with each attempt, giving the system time to recover before the next attempt arrives. Combined with jitter, a small random variation in the retry delay, so that all clients don't retry simultaneously after a shared failure. Exponential backoff is the responsible way to retry in the presence of uncertainty. There's a deeper layer to delivery failure that's worth understanding because it explains a category of failure that surprises people who haven't encountered it. When a TPP connection is established between two systems, both sides maintain state, a record that the connection exists, that they're communicating, that data can flow. This state persists as long as the connection is open. But what happens when the network between them is interrupted? The connection doesn't close cleanly. There's no goodbye message, no negotiated shutdown. The interruption is simply silence. Both sides stop receiving data. And here's the problem. Both sides still believe the connection is open because neither side sent a close message. This is a half-open connection. A connection that both parties think exists but can no longer exchange data. Without a mechanism to detect half-open connections, systems can sit for minutes, hours, or indefinitely in a state of apparent connectivity that produces no actual data flow. This is where TCP keep-alives come in. Small probe packets sent periodically on idle connections to verify that the other side is still reachable and responsive. If keep-alive probes go unanswered, the connection is declared dead and closed. The application is notified that the connection failed and can take appropriate action. Keep-alive settings are often left at operating system defaults, which are frequently configured for maximum compatibility rather than fast failure detection. A keep-alive interval of 2 hours, a common default, means a half-open connection might not be detected for 2 hours. For production systems where fast failure detection matters, explicit keep-alive configuration, much shorter intervals, is essential. What ties all of this together is a single, uncomfortable truth. Failure in a networked system is not a binary state. It's not working versus broken. It's a spectrum of ambiguity. The mechanisms we've covered, timeouts, retries, backoff, keep-alives, are all ways of navigating that ambiguity. None of them are perfect. Every timeout value is a guess, a bet that the right answer is somewhere between give up too soon and wait too long. Every retry strategy is a balance between not trying hard enough and making the problem worse. Every keep-alive interval is a trade-off between fast failure detection and unnecessary network traffic. The systems that handle delivery failure well are the ones that have thought carefully about these trade-offs for their specific context. Silence from the network is not nothing. It's information, ambiguous information, difficult to interpret, but information nonetheless. How your system reads that silence and what it does about it is one of the most consequential choices in networked software design.